What is good, Counter-Strike fans? Welcome back to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today, we're talking about Blast Rivals 2025 Season 2. This will be the final private fantasy event before the major, and one of the last few fantasy events in general for the rest of the season. I believe with the major, it'll probably be another 4 fantasy events in accordance to um, stages 1 through 3 and then the playoffs. So not much to go, and this is probably one of the more key ones, especially because we have a couple of the favorites for the major in this event, who might want to get some form and get some momentum going into the major. Um, but before we get started, let's take a look back at how we did in IMD Chengdu. Um, got a top 5%, 18 points towards my fall season standing. So back again in form. Decided to go the W Furia with Jakindar and Fallen. Jakindar did really well. Flamesy did well as well for Vitality. Nico kind of disappointed, but not the worst. If you look at the best value for money players, I believe it was basically, Furia, Vitality, and Killscape just randomly in there. Just want to give a plug to my fantasy league. Haven't really talked much about this, but I always leave a link down below for people to join our fantasy league. Unfortunately, not many people joined this year, so hoping for more people for next year. But yeah, just want to give a shout out to Cashlag, who's in first place currently, and then Hunter as well, who's in there. Getting close. I mean, it's a really close event right now. There's still a couple events, so this could be switched around depending on form and how we do in the rest of the season. But yeah, feel free to join. If next year we get more people, then I would be thinking of giving away maybe like a Steam gift card or something to first place. But yeah, if you're interested, join. The link is down below. And just a quick, round out review of where we're at. We're 1,442 with 124 points. We did miss a fantasy event this year, but in general, we're doing okay. I mean, probably no prizes for me, but I want to finish as high as possible. I don't recall what I finished last year, but yeah, just hoping to finish as high as possible with whatever time we have left. But we can take a look at Blast Rivals, and this is how the event's going to be structured. It'll be a whole event, so the whole event will be taken into account for the fantasy event, and there'll be 2 group stages. Will be a group stage, whether Group A and Group B, and then top 3 will make the playoffs from both groups. First place does get a first round bye, so pretty standard. For Group A, we have Mongols, Passion UA facing each other in the opening round, and then Spirit versus Falcons. And then for Group B, we have Furia and Pain versus Vitality and Tailu. So some good teams, and then some not so great teams. Just wanted to show this really quickly. This is not my prediction, but something to take into account is that because Spirit and Falcons face each other in the first opening match, and if they both go through, they'll probably both be on the same side of the bracket as highlighted up here. So that means whoever finishes second in Group B kind of has a tough path to the final. So just something to take into account as well. And also whoever finishes, I believe, second in Group A and third in Group B kind of have an easier path where they'll have to face, the worst team from Group B and get the second best team from Group A. And then they'll probably face like one of Vitality or Furia up here as well. So yeah, my predictions, I believe Passion UA can beat Mongols. I don't know. I still am not feeling Mongols, especially with controls there. I think Passion UA could upset them. And then for Spirit and Falcons, it's a 50-50. I would lean Falcons just because Spirit hasn't looked good recently. But I know that Nico and Modesty also have a good record against Stunk. So that's why I have Falcons there. The lower final, Mongols versus Spirit. I think I have Spirit winning that. I think Spirit have to perform better. Um, this has to be an event for them to actually show that they can still win. And then Passion UA Falcons. I'm gonna have Falcons. Group B, Furia versus Pain. You know, this could be the upset right here. Like Pain could lose, or Pain could beat Furia. I think Furia would be better for them to lose this first round, opening round, so they don't get put into that Spirit Falcons side of the bracket. But also a high risk, high reward, because then if they win the upper final, they get to go into the other side of the bracket and get a first round bye, and probably get one of the easier sides as well. So wouldn't be surprised with Pain beating Furia, especially if Furia have no motivation to win, and they do kind of start slow into events, especially after they won the previous one. Vitality versus Tyloo. Vitality should win that. So I just have the favorites up here in the upper final. Furia versus Vitality. I think Vitality will win and get their revenge against Furia. And then for the lower final, Pain versus Tyloo. I honestly don't see Tyloo, even though Asia Counter-Strike was back. I think now Brazilian's Counter-Strike is better right now currently, and I think Pain has beaten Tyloo recently, so I'm gonna go with the more recent um, result, which will leave us with this playoff bracket. And this could go either way. I mean, the top side is really top heavy, and either one of them can go up there. Meanwhile, this side of the bottom side of the bracket has Vitality only, and they should get to the grand final. So I do expect Vitality to be one of the teams to make the grand final. And then if I had to choose between Spirit, Furia, and Falcons, probably Furia, just because of form. But you never know, especially with Spirit and Falcons, with the firepower they have, they can win against Furia anytime. So just something to take into account. But now we can talk about most big players. And currently we have Jakindar, the most picked player. He has over 33% of people picking him, alongside with Moldoy. So they're really high pick right now, and Fallen as well. The other one that's over 30% is Apex, and Flamesy as well from Vitality. And then you have the Falcons triple up. So Tessis, Kaneko, and Kickstand. So not a lot of love shown for Mongols or even Spirit. If we can talk about the players individually, we're gonna start with Vitality. Vitality has been the number one team for a while. I mean, they usually get, for the whole season, actually for the whole year, they've been number one, and then they usually have someone else alongside them. So at the beginning of the year, it was Spirit. Then middle of the season one, it was like Mouse, and then towards the end, it was Falcons, and then at the start of the year, it was Mongols, and now it's Furia alongside Vitality. So something that we know is that Vitality is a constant, and they will probably go far. My favorite pick has to be Flamesy at 211. I think he's the most affordable, but I don't mind going with someone like Robs for 5k more, because we know that Robs does perform better against tougher opposition. I would not pick Apex or Messi just because their form has been very poor over the last 3 months. They haven't been the same ever since. They haven't been blowing out teams. Sai was interesting. If you can afford him, he's an interesting differential. But yet again, he hasn't really shown the heights that he usually does. He usually leaves the opening stages for the rest of the team, and then he performs towards the playoffs. For Furia, coming off a win in Chengdu, they're going to be looking good. I think my favorite two picks has to be Yuri and Jakindar. That will be my favorite double up. They're really cheap and they're performing really well. I think Kisrado and Malzoy, while they are very good, I think they're a little bit too expensive, especially with how we want to structure this event, where we might want to go with a 2-1-1-1 just to cover all our bases. But if you want to go here, definitely could be worth it. And then Fallen at 187. It's not bad, but he hasn't really fragged out as much as he did when the team first came about. For Falcons, I think the option is still Nico at 209. He's still been the second to first best player in this team. He's been better and better. Um, I think Kyosuke is definitely a do not buy. He's just too expensive and he hasn't been reaching the heights that he used to. Mondesi's not bad at 230, but yet again, I mean, are you gonna pick a Mondesi at 230? Probably not, especially if I can get Saiwu, who's a little bit more consistent. I think they will go a little bit further. And Falcons does have a tough matchup against Spirit in the first round. Testing Kicksan. The better value for money right now is Kicksan at 188. Because he's been fragging a little bit better than Tessis. But I do think Tessis has the highest upside, and I like him as well. So, yeah, for Falcons, Nico, Tessis, and Kicksan. For Mongols, it's gonna be tough for them. Controls, while he was good in his first event with Mongols, he's definitely no Sensu. I think they're missing a little bit of the firepower as well. But if you want to go here, I would definitely pick 910. For sure, 910. Pick 910 for sure. And then probably pick Techno because he's the cheapest next one. But otherwise, Mongols, I don't have too much trust to go very far here. Even though it's in Asia, Hong Kong, so they might have some support there. For Spirit, I think Shiro's great value at 215. Him and Dunk are basically the carry of this team so far, and I think Shiro at 215 is really cheap for what he does and how consistent he is with his rating. Now, are Spirit gonna perform well as a team? I don't know, and I think they're definitely gonna make changes next year. I think Chopper and Sway are in the chopping block, and it could be Sontics and Magics coming back. So definitely something where they need to pick up momentum and go into the major with at least a win, so they want to win this event. Other than Chiro, Chopper is not bad at 178 if you want to save some money. Tenier hasn't reached the highs that he did at Heroic, but he has had a couple great games, so I don't mind at 206. And then Sway at 190. If he was 180s, I would definitely consider it. At 190, he's not bad, but you gotta hope that he really steps it up a lot because he's been really poor recently. And Donk, I would say he's probably my favorite goal just because he can take over games, but we don't know how far Spirit can go, and I think Sai will probably go a lot further. After Spirit, the rest of the teams are a little bit more iffy, but they will give you a budget to pick some of the better players from the other teams. So, for example, for Pain, all they have to do is, well, if they lose against Furia, they have to play against Tai Lu, and I think they should be Tai Lu, because Tai Lu hasn't looked great in form currently. I'd like Snow the most at 184. He has been over the last month their best player by far. If you want a little bit more consistency, however, because Snow can be very inconsistent because of how young he is, DGT and Davideos are not bad options either. Wouldn't go NQC, however, because he's too expensive. For Tai Lu, I think going into this event they might be the worst team just because of form and how they looked. If you believe in Tai Lu, Yam Young at 198 is definitely an option because he can pop off, but I think he's just too expensive for the team that you're picking into. I don't mind Yi or Mercury as cheap options. Attacker's not bad, but 170 you're not really getting close to anything there. But Tai Lu could make it to the playoffs. I think that's what you want with your cheapie. And finally, for Passion UA, I think this team has the most amount of value. Everyone but Nyx is an option. So for example, Grim I think is the best option. He's their best player and he can put up a 1.1 rating for sure. And they have an interesting matchup against Mongols where they could win. I mean, they've probably been practicing for months now. They haven't had an official for a while. So definitely something that they can throw at Mongols to surprise them. Grim is a great option. Then I would go Halserg and then JT. Because JT's so cheap as well. And he can frag a little bit as an IGL. Quem, well, he does give him more firepower than Sexy, who was in this team before. Um, he's still a good option. Still, I mean, I think he's still good, and he's shown it as well in tier 2 that he's pretty well. But how would they do in tier 1? I'm not sure. But it's basically the same complexity roster that just moved to Passion UA with a little bit more Ukrainian flavor. As for my team, I want to build around. Um, well, I wanted to build around Shiro, but how are we gonna do that? Um, this is how we're gonna do that. We're gonna pick 2 Falcon players with Tessus and Nico. I think Nico especially is very good value. I think Tessus should do better, and especially with his role with Headshot Machine, he does trigger at a very high rate. So that's very good there. I do want to build around Shiro because I do like his price a lot. I think even if he doesn't go the farthest, he could be one of the best value with how he's gonna post great numbers. And then Flamesy, he's just great value as well. And I think Vitality will go very far. I think they get to the finals. Um, and then JT is my cheapie to afford the rest of the team. But as you can see, I don't have any Furia cover. And if Furia were to go far in this event, I would be in trouble. Very much trouble. Something else that we can do here is we can go Jakandar Yuri, Nico, Shiro, Flamesy, and JT. So there's another team that I looked at. I think this team is much better rounded. We don't have Shiro as the hard carry, but we do have Yuri and Jakandar, who should do good enough. I think honestly I'm 50-50 between both teams. I think this team is better rounded, but the other team has more upside because then I don't pick into Furia, who's very high picked right now. Yeah, I think just because Furia is so high pick, I want to go against that a little bit. But I don't mind this team as well. I like this team a lot because Spirit have been the worst out of the top 4 teams, and Furia has been the best. So that's why they're so highly picked. I mean, you saw that Molodoi, Jakindar, and Fallen are like 3 of the highest picked players. So this is another option right here as well. Otherwise, I mean, if you want to go more well-rounded, I mean, you kind of want to build around these 3 for sure. I think they're great value. Even Yuri as well is great value. Maybe like a Sway, and then you throw in like a Grim or a Snow in there. Like that's not bad. Or if you throw in a Jakindar, you can throw in like a Fallen. This is not a bad team either, honestly. And you cover the top 4 teams for this event. So just something to look into. But for now, I'm gonna go with this team. I might switch to the double Furia, Nico, Flamesy, and JT. But it's definitely up to you and how you believe that the event will go. I just want to fight off the most picked players because I know Furia is basically really highly picked, and if I don't think they go far or I think they just don't perform to their best, then having someone like Chiro who's very differential will be good for me. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What you think of my team, any recommendations, leave your teams down below as well. I know we only have a couple hours left, but wanted to get this video out just to be a little bit more consistent.